All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to be looking at something I find really fascinating, and that's the idea that ancient civilizations might have been tapping into some, how do I say this, some pretty advanced natural energies.
Yeah, it's amazing to think, right, like what did they know that we've maybe forgotten?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've got a few sources to guide us on this little journey. We've got David Wilcock's The Source Field Investigations and Victor Schauberger's The Energy Evolution.
Oh, and we even pulled some scientific papers about, zero-point energy and all that.
Okay, a pretty good mix then.
Yeah, should be fun to see where this takes us. So let's dive right in. Let's start with Wilcock's source field, this idea of a conscious energy field connecting everything.
Okay, yeah. He describes it as like this interconnected web of energy that influences everything around us. It's a bit like,
Oh, like the Force from Star Wars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But instead of just moving objects, it's shaping reality itself.
Whoa, okay.
Right.
I'm intrigued. And he backs it up with some really interesting scientific studies. Like, remember Cleve Baxter's experiments with plants?
Oh yeah, with the lie detectors? Those were wild.
Exactly. Baxter found that plants reacted to his thoughts and intentions even when he was nowhere near them.
It's like they were reading his mind or something.
Right. And that's just one example. Wilcock also brings up studies on remote viewing where people accurately describe places or events they couldn't physically see.
So this source field could be the key to things we usually consider paranormal.
It's definitely a possibility.
Okay, my mind is already blown.
Just wait, there's more.
Oh, I'm sure. Now, how do pyramids fit into all of this? I mean, I know they're often seen as just tombs.
Right, but there's always been a sort of mystique surrounding them. And that mystique gets even more interesting when we look at the research Russian scientists have been doing on pyramid structures. They actually built pyramids out of, like, fiberglass and stuff.
Fiberglass pyramids?
Yeah, and they studied how those pyramids affected the environment.
Interesting. What'd they find?
Well, for one, seeds placed inside the pyramids sprouted faster and grew better.
Really?
Yeah. They also saw evidence that, like, water became cleaner and even the physical properties of some materials changed. Like, some became stronger or conducted electricity differently.
That's wild. It's like the pyramids were manipulating energy somehow. But do they know how it works?
That's the million-dollar question. They documented the effects, but the actual mechanisms are still a bit of a mystery.
A mystery indeed. But, it makes you wonder if those ancient Egyptians were onto something, with their pyramids and all.
Yeah, and some researchers think these pyramids might be tapping into something called zero-point energy.
Oh, like the energy that exists everywhere, even in a vacuum.
Exactly. It's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
It really is. And it kind of connects back to that source field idea, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe the pyramids are interacting with this field to channel zero-point energy.
That's a fascinating connection. It definitely makes you think about how those ancient civilizations might have viewed the world so differently.
Right. It's like they had a whole different level of understanding about energy and the universe.
Yeah, and speaking of a different understanding, we haven't even gotten to Victor Schauberger's work yet. His book, The Energy Evolution, dives into natural energy flows, and he even claimed that ancient cultures knew how to use sound for levitation.
Wait, levitation? As in making things float?
Yep, and he believed it all tied into understanding the natural flow of energy, particularly in nature. He was really fascinated by water.
Water, huh? Okay, so instead of fighting against nature with her technology, he was looking to work with it.
Exactly. He called it implosion technology, using these spiraling movements to create energy. And according to him, even levitation.
Hold on, this is getting a little too sci-fi for me. Did Schauberger actually make anything levitate, or was it just a theory?
Well, that's where things get a little tricky. There are a lot of stories and anecdotes, but hard scientific evidence, that's a little harder to come by.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. We're dealing with some pretty far-out concepts here.
It's true. But, maybe that's part of the fun. It pushes us to think outside the box. Consider possibilities that mainstream science might not be ready to embrace yet.
I like that, yeah. It's all about keeping an open mind.
Exactly.
So we've got the source field idea, pyramids as energy conduits, levitation, and then there's time travel.
Yeah.
Which is, wow, that's a whole other rabbit hole. Where does that fit in with all of this?
Time travel is a big one. It pops up in a lot of these sources. Wilcock, for instance, talks about those stories of time slips and people vanishing without a trace.
Yeah, and he even brings up the year 2012, the whole Mayan calendar thing.
Right, like something shifted, or maybe the fabric of time itself changed in some way.
Okay, so maybe not time travel in the sense of hopping in a time machine, but more like time might not be as linear as we think it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually ties in with the work of this Russian scientist named Nikolai Kozyrev. He spent his whole career studying the properties of time.
Really, like what did he do?
Well, he was a pretty innovative guy. He used these things called torsion balances, super sensitive instruments to try and actually measure changes in the flow of time.
Whoa, measure changes in time. What did he find?
He found that all sorts of things could affect the flow of time, like changes in temperature or really fast spinning objects.
So you're saying like actions or events could actually warp time.
That was his idea. And he even suggested some pretty wild applications for this knowledge, like new ways to produce energy or maybe even space travel. He also believed certain places on Earth, like those energy vortex points we talked about earlier, could act as portals to different times.
Hold on, are we saying there might be actual time portals, not just science fiction, and they might be connected to the same spots that could cause levitation?
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it? If time is a flow of energy and these vortex points are where energy is concentrated, then maybe, just maybe, they could be points where the flow of time is disrupted or even amplified.
Okay, now this is really blowing my mind. Ancient civilizations understanding this source field, building pyramids to channel energy, maybe even levitating things and traveling through time.
Yeah.
It's like they had a completely different understanding of reality than we do today.
It really makes you wonder what else is out there, what else we might have forgotten or overlooked. And speaking of things that challenge our understanding of history, have you ever heard of OPARTs?
OPARTs? I don't think so. What's that?
It stands for out-of-place artifacts. These are objects found in archaeological digs or geological formations that seem way too advanced for the time period they're supposed to be from.
Oh, wow. Like what?
Well, one famous example is the Antikythera mechanism. It's this incredibly complex device found in an ancient Greek shipwreck. It's over 2,000 years old, but it seems to have been used to calculate astronomical positions.
So like a really, really old computer.
Kind of. It's incredibly sophisticated for its time. Some people even think OPARTs could be evidence of time travelers leaving their gadgets behind.
Time travelers. Now that's a theory.
I know, right? It's a wild one. But whether it's time travelers, lost ancient civilizations, or something else entirely, OPARTs definitely challenge our assumptions about history and technology.
They definitely do. It's like we're piecing together a puzzle, but with some really strange pieces that don't quite fit the picture we thought we knew.
Exactly. And maybe that's the most exciting part. It forces us to question everything and to consider possibilities we might have dismissed before.
I completely agree. It's all about staying open-minded and curious.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You know, one thing that really stuck with me from all these sources we've been looking at is this idea of like a golden age.
The golden age, huh?
Yeah, like a time of, heightened consciousness and spiritual awakening for humanity.
That was pretty utopian.
Yeah, right. But it's interesting, though, because there are all these, ancient prophecies and calendars, like the Mayan calendar we talked about.
Oh, yeah, 2012, the end of the world as we know it.
Right. And even though, the world didn't end, a lot of people felt like something shifted.
Yeah, like we entered a new era or something.
Exactly. And maybe it wasn't a physical end of the world, but more like a shift in consciousness.
Interesting.
And, Wilcock talks a lot about this, about the power of our collective consciousness to actually influence the source field.
So like our thoughts and intentions could actually shape reality.
That's the idea. He suggests that if enough of us focus on things like love, compassion, unity, we could actually create a better world.
Okay, now that's a thought I can get behind.
Right. It's like we're all contributing to this massive energy field, and the more positive energy we put into it, the better the outcome.
I like that. It's a nice change of pace from all the doom and gloom we hear so much these days.
Yeah, for sure. But it's important to remember that change takes time.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to wake up tomorrow and everything's perfect.
Exactly. This golden age, it's not about, reaching some perfect state where all problems disappear.
So it's more about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And, it's about embracing the journey, even with all its ups and downs.
Okay, I can dig that.
Yeah.
But what can we actually do to contribute to this shift? It's all very inspiring, but where do we even begin?
Well, it starts with ourselves, cultivating awareness, being mindful of our thoughts and actions, choosing love and compassion whenever we can.
Like be the change and all that.
Yeah. But it also goes beyond just personal change. We can support organizations doing good work, promoting peace, sustainability, social justice.
So like getting involved, making our voices heard.
Right. Every little bit counts, every act of kindness, every moment of awareness, it all adds up.
Wow, we've covered so much in this deep dive.
I know, right?
From the source field to pyramids, to levitation, time travel, O parts, 0-point energy, even a golden age. My mind is officially blown.
Mine too. But what's really amazing is that we've only just scratched the surface.
There's always more to learn.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it, this endless journey of discovery. And the most important thing is to keep that sense of curiosity alive, keep exploring, keep asking questions.
I like that. Keep that spark going. Well, this has been an incredible conversation. To everyone listening, I hope this deep dive has inspired you to explore these ideas further, find what resonates with you and dive in. There's a whole universe of possibilities out there waiting to be discovered. Until next time, keep questioning, keep searching, and most importantly, keep an open mind.